Hi guys, Paul from International Scale Modeller. Welcome to part 8 of our techniques guide using our Airfix 148-109 Messerschmitt. Today we're going to focus on pre-shading. Not a task I enjoy whatsoever. With that and rescribing, probably my most hated. Just a pure monotony of it, really. We're going to cover pre-shading, and we'll also give a run through of airbrush cleaning. So I'll show you how I clean the airbrush out after every use. And then once every week or couple of weeks I'll do a full strip down of the airbrush. I'll show how I do that as well. Sadly can't show that on every airbrush I own. I'll show it on a quite popular airbrush. I'll show it on one of my Hardestein Bfs, and I'll do a complete strip down, clean, and put it back together and what have you as well. So what we'll do now, we'll move to the spray booth and we'll get some pre-shading down. Quickly as well, you may notice on this, since part 7, it's lost its centre section of canopy. Yeah, the carpet monster ate that. This has been kept up out of the way on a shelf. I walked in the other day, knocked it off. The canopy fell off when it landed on the floor, so I picked it back up. I just rested it on the back, thought I'll stick that back on later. Walked back in later that day, knocked it back off again. This time the canopy was loose, obviously. It went missing. I have searched everywhere, including rooting completely through my bin in here for it, and I cannot for the life of me find it. I thought, no problem, I've built several of these kits before, I've got spare clear set parts for it, just been through them all, and every single time I built this kit, I've used that particular canopy, which doesn't have the centre section in it there, as you can see on that one. So I'm going to have to contact Airfix to get a new one. Luckily it doesn't hold us up to date because we're just pre-shading, so I just have to be very careful when I go near this part that none of it goes into the cockpit. But yeah, shows you Carpet Monster can eat large parts as well, because I have no idea where that went whatsoever. It'll probably turn up in about 6 months time, end up sticking in my foot or something. But yeah, that's why it's missing, not being me being weird at all. So like I say, we'll move to the spray booth and we'll get going on the pre-shading. Okay, so we're in the spray booth. What I've done with the 109 is I took the front and rear sections of the canopy off. I'm going to need to retouch up this paint where the glue's taken it off where the other canopy got lost. So I thought, rather than mucking about now trying to avoid them, I'll take them off and I can retouch up this paintwork inside later on if I get any pre-shading on there whatsoever. So we're currently canopyless. So it's going to be like that until I get a replacement part, as you do. But at least today we can get on with the pre-shading anyway. So pre-shading, my choice of colour is Mr. Hobby Aqueous, flat black, number 12 it is, position 12, H12. Sprays very nice, thins very nicely as well, as do all the Mr. Hobby paints, the aqueous colour. So that's my choice. I'll be tinning that with our Ultimate Airbrush thinner, and I'll show cleaning using the Ultimate Airbrush cleaner as well. So pop those to one side. Airbrush, as always, I'll be using my Hardestein Bf Evolution 0.2 needle. My favourite airbrush ever. Absolutely love this one. I've had this one for it's gonna be 2.5 years now. I've had this particular one to look new components in it and what have you. As you can see with my colour cup, I've taken all the nickel out of there. It's been that well used. I do need to get a new colour cup for it. Absolutely superb airbrush. Easy to clean, easy to maintain, easy to fix if you break anything. Very, very strong, and in fact it's gotten that well worn now. You can see I've started to take the nickel coating off where my fingers rest. So this is my go-to airbrush. I've got this one, and I've got the newer version of it as well. I use this one for Mr. Hobbies, Tamiya, etc. Anything that'll clean with cellulose thinner goes in this. Anything that won't will go in this, because what I do is every now and then I'll put some cellulose in to get rid of the remnants of what's in there. To be honest, I haven't been doing it as much since mainly developed the airbrush cleaner. I haven't needed to, because that's just cut down on the working time. Cleaning airbrushes so much, it's unreal. But what I found is particular paints like Vallejo, some of the extra acrylics, they didn't like the Tamiya X28 thinner I was using before, so you get a gunk build up in the airbrush over time. So I bought 2. With using the Ultimate stuff now, which works with everything problem free, I'm actually thinking of getting rid of one and just having the one main airbrush now. We'll see how that goes, but that's how I use it. Paints that didn't like each other reacted. I had 2 separate airbrushes. So for today we'll be using this. We are at 15 psi. As I say, we're going to be using Mr. Hobby Flat Black. We've got a brand new bottle, cracked open just for you guys. So good shake. Any bottles, I like to give them a tap on the hand. Give it a nice shake and mix up. I'm going to pop it in. We don't need too much, we'll pop the lid back on the paint. So as you can see, we're just to the edge of the colour cup inside, and we'll pop in about 50% thinner, roughly. The great thing I've been finding with dual smith thinner, it don't need to be approximate in your thinning ratios, it just seems to work with everything really. So you don't need to, measure out exactly 50mm or 10mm, whatever you're using. And we want it thin enough so you can write your name. That's how I normally do. So I'll normally pull it through. Let's see just how thin we can get it. And that's not thin enough, so we'll put a bit more in. You can tell by the noise as well the airbrush is making if the paint isn't thin enough, because it'll struggle to get the air out. So that looks a lot better. Probably too thin now. I think we'll up the pressure a little bit. I tend to work at a lot higher pressures than a lot of people. I normally work around the 25 psi mark. And that's what I'm going to stick to, where I always work at. So as you can see, straight away we get thinner lines. So like I say, try and write your name. As long as you can get that nice and thin, then you should be able to get your pre-shading down to a T as well. What I'm going to do as well is I'm going to pop a cap on this. It's off the Neo because I haven't bought one from Evolution yet. Keep meaning to, keep forgetting. So, two ways you can do this. You can hold the model and you can use your airbrush up and down. I tend to use both of these techniques I'm about to describe. So what I'll do, I'll lob the airbrush booth on. It's a bit noisy in my booth now. It's got a brand new filter and the draw's a lot better than it used to be, so it may drown out the audio a little bit. I hope you can still hear me. So two ways you can do this. You can either hold the model, as you can see, getting a straight line. Can be quite difficult. One thing to remember, pre-shading, it doesn't need to be perfect. I find the more random a pattern is, the better it works. So as you can see, not very precise, the lines are quite thick, it's a bit wobbly, etc. So the way I tend to do it most of the time, I'm going to use the paint can to pop the back of the aircraft up, is I used to like to hold it with my other hand, so that gives you a guide then. Help you get the airbrush straighter. As you can see, we're rocking around a little bit, so we'll get rid of that. With having that extra support, it really does help. Another thing as well, because I've got the camera overhead, I'm quite far back from the model, so I can't get in as close as I'd like. I'd normally be right up there close, because I can't get in. Can't get as tight a line as I usually have. So once you've got your lines, start picking up the detail and extras and the other surface detail you want to add. Like I say, having the support of your other hand to get straighter lines. What you don't want is you don't want a grid pattern, so you don't want it perfectly straight because it looks odd when you put your base colour on. So I think having the random lines, or you know, the left side's definitely better than the right, because I'll have more control using two hands. As you can see, it's nowhere near as deliberate because your hands just really floating around. So using the two-handed technique's a lot easier, a lot better. Again, if you're not happy, just put a coat of primer back over it, start again. But don't try and get it perfect. It doesn't need to be perfect. I'm not bothered how that looks whatsoever, because 90% of it will be covered by the base colour. There's no problem at all. Same on the side panels. If you can get it propped up, it makes it easier for you. Which is often easier said than done. So again, from time to time, always pulling through your paint. A bit easier for me here because I can get right in. So we've got hardly any trigger pull back, but we're fully down for air. All we do is keep building up those coats. Until you're happy. Like I say, the two-handed approach is definitely more accurate. Just keep building it up. So you're going at a level you're happy with. There's the sides done, and the top I like to split it into sections, so I do the side, top, and the other side, so you're not trying to get it all round in one go, you're just literally picking a part of it to do at a time. I'll just do this last side, and off camera I'll do the rest, because you won't be sitting here watching me doing this for 30 minutes. I know a lot of people say do this at lower pressure. I just prefer doing it at higher pressure. Don't be worried about getting it perfect. I don't, I never ever will. Never have, because the more random the pattern, the more natural it looks through the actual base colour. Don't worry if you get runs, just blast them away. Again, cover it all up with the base coat. Two sides, top, the other side, both wings, one done freehand on the right, one done a bit more purposeful on the left. So as you can see, like I said, I do use both techniques, but obviously the two-hand hold works a hell of a lot better. So I'm going to go around and finish the entire aircraft, and we'll come back once it's done. Okay, there we go, all appreciated, badly, as I always say. Top, bottom, underneath. A little bit thicker than I'd like it in places, but you're not going to see it once you get the base coat down. Even the worst pre-shading is hidden from view. If you look at my MiG-29 I did recently, one of my best models I've ever made in my opinion, and the pre-shading was shocking on that, and the end result was really good in my opinion. So there we go, all the way around, underneath, round the top, everywhere. So that's ready for its replacement canopy. I haven't really got anywhere to touch up through the pre-shading on the inside of the cockpit, but I will touch up some of the areas where the glue's come off from the canopy. So once we get the replacement canopy, we can crack on getting some base colours down in part 9, I think it is, and getting the camouflage on. But I'm in Airfix's hands now as to how long it'll take to post this out. Hopefully it won't be too long if we can get cracking. But there we go, that's our pre-shaded. What we've got now is we've got the airbrush, literally as I used it, still got plenty of paint in there. So we're going to have a quick clean through here, which is my colour change guide, or whatever you want to call it, that I do, you know, 10 times a day sometimes to change paint colours. As long as the paint, I know what it is and what's gone in it, I'll put it back in the bottle as I've just done, because all that is ultimate thinner, and that's it, Mr. Hobby Paint, so that can go back in. What I'll then do is, I've got an airbrush cleaner, which I'll bring over to show you, is one of these things. So it's just a big pot, so what I do is I chuck it in until we get the noise like that. That she's all cleared. As you can see inside, still plenty of paint in there. So we'll move that to one side. So what do I use to clean? I have a brush, an old humble brush, cut down so it's got shorter bristles, ultimate thinner. I'll lob a good amount of that in, get the brush, and then agitate the entire colour cup all around. So you're picking up the cleaner, getting it everywhere like I am, and just cleaning out inside. All the way down the bottom, removing any excess cleaner from the brush. I then, using a tissue on the nozzle end, beauty of the harder steam vet with this nozzle is you can actually grip it, block it up, bit of air, pull back so you get bubbles. What that's doing is that's blowing air back through the nozzle and kicking out anything that's in there. That's then tipped away into a receptacle I have next to me that just holds all paint and cleaner. As you can see, 90% of that's now gone inside, so I'll give it a wipe around, then we'll give the exterior a wipe down to the nozzle, give it a blast out, clean, and it should just take one more of these and it'll be spotless, ready for your next colour or ready to put away, depends what you're doing with it. Job done. With the brush I then like to clean a needle tip. I've seen people using cotton buds on the needle, pushing it in, that's just going to bend your needle. It works, and I used to do it, but the replacement cost of, I think it's about, is it £12 for a new needle? It's not worth doing, so just get a soft bristle brush and just literally run it through the tip, job done. Once I'm happy with that, add the little remnants of colour in there, cleaner in there, back to load again, tip it away into the airbrush station cleaner. So you hear the distinctive emptiness like that. Wipe inside again, and there we go, spotless. So that's how I clean my airbrush. Probably it's got to be at least sometimes 10 times a day, changing colour or putting it away for the day. And like I say, when I'm finished for the day, I put in a few mil of cleaner, which then sits at the bottom, and that stops anything drying in there that shouldn't be in there. And when you come to use again, you just jet that away and you're way to go again, so you get no nasty remnants sat in there. So that's how I clean it, probably every day for at least, well, a week, 2 weeks, until I start to notice performance deteriorate. Then I'll give it a complete strip down, give it a full clean through and put it all back together. But there's no need to strip the entire airbrush down every time, you're just wasting your own time. Just do that and this thing works perfectly for days and days and days. until I need to give it a full on strip down. So what we'll do, we'll move over to the workbench, and I'll run through taking one of these Evolutions to bits, giving it a clean, and putting it back together as well. We'll go through the full strip down of all the components and get it cleaned. Right, okay, so we're over on the workbench now. I've got all the tools necessary to clean the airbrush. I've got airbrush cleaner, we've got airbrush lube, we've got the needle washer tool, the reamer, and the harder steam back brush as well. So airbrush is just as we left it from the spray booth. It's still got remnants of cleaner, as you can see I've just spilled. So strip down, back parts off first, then colour cup, the air valve, the front needle housing, and then the needle itself. Now again, something I've seen a few times, don't take your needle out from the back, because any gunk or dry paint which you do get on the needle will be dragged back through the through the needle chuck and washer, and it'll destroy your washer and clog up with crap. So always take it out the front. Now as you can see, we were cleaned, and it is probably 90% clean. If we just run it through some paper towel, we've just got very, very wet remnants of paint that have sat in there. So clean it the way I just showed you, it does get rid of 90% of the paint. Works very well. So that's that. The other components you've got the trigger and the rear spring section of the housing too. So we take it fully to bits. There we go. So what I like to do is a bit of airbrush cleaner. Does make a mess of your desk, so I like to pour a little bit in. We get the harder Steenbeck actual cleaning brush, which is tapered, different sizes, so you can literally pop it through into the housing itself, and it will clean where the needle goes through, and the thicker part will do the very front part as well. Give it a quick clean, pull through. You'll see how much crap you've got out of there by how much is left on the sheet. So not an immense amount, and probably most of that was left on the brush from last time, because that's green and we haven't used any green paint today or since I last cleaned it. Once that's done, give it a little flush through with a bit more cleaner, and that's that part cleaned. All you need to do then is give the surface a good clean around the edges. Same for an airbrush. All airbrushes have the same components inside. I've got my Iwata Revolution, and again you screw the back off. There's your needle chuck. You take the front off, and you've got the nozzle housing and the nozzle itself. The difference is this needs to be screwed off with a spanner, but it's the exact same principle. So I'm not going to show cleaning all different types of airbrush, but it does show that they are basically the same principle. Now for your needle nozzle and the nozzle housing, I've got these little tattooing cups. Tiny, they're probably, I think they're 2mm, are they? I like to fill them with a bit of cleaner, get it all over the desk. Pop in the actual needle nozzle itself and the front housing, and just leave them there for 5 minutes while you're cleaning everything else, and that'll give them a good soak to get anything out. To be honest, there won't be much in there, just it'll show just how thorough that clean as I do between colour changes, but there we go. Once a part's clean, I'll put it to one side. Same with the needle. We just wiped it off, but we'll do it again just for the sake of making sure it is clean. Again, always go back, don't go forward, and watch these needles because they are really sharp and easily damaged as well. So again, once it's clean, put it to one side and just go through the various components, cleaning them as you go, and put them out of harm's way once they're done. Now, the air valve, from time to time, needs a little bit of lube just on the stem, just there. That's the part you're pushing down when you're calling for air. You've got to make sure you don't lose the washer as well. So what I like to do is pop a tiny bit of Iwata Super Lube on there. Just work it up and down a couple of times with your finger, and that's that done. Ready to go. You can completely strip this part down should you require, but you'll never need to do that. And you can also alter your tension on your trigger as well to make it harder or softer by loosening or tightening the screw inside. Quite hard to get off this because the valve's on very tight. You need to grip this where you get this off, but in there's a little slotted screw, and you can adjust the tension to make it harder or easier to push your trigger. So a handy thing to know and remember. So out of the way. Colour cup, like I say, this colour cup has seen better days. This has seen a hell of a lot of paint, a lot of different thinners, to the point now where the enamel's gone. You can see inside where it's just down to the bare metalwork. You can see around the top of it, it's still shining. As we go down, it loses all its shine because it is literally just that well used. Harder Steenbecks, all the airbrushes now have the cellulose proof seals in. The old ones didn't. This, because this is an old one, I didn't originally have to replace them all, and that includes the needle seal inside, which I'll show you quickly. This is Harder Steenbeck's tool for getting to that. You can use a screwdriver, but I found it often destroys the actual screw itself. So you undo that, and out it comes, and there's the actual needle chuck seal in there as well. It's a very handy spare to keep, because it's surprising just how many you'll go through. God knows how many I've used over the years, but we've got to be in double digits easily. And again, it's a case of just popping it back in, screwing it up, job done. So that's those out of the way. These parts, they don't need any maintenance at all really, just a wipe over, as does the rear needle chuck as well. It's just sprung, so there's only 4 components in there, and nothing to clean. The main parts to clean on these are the needle, the front part of the airbrush we rinsed through before, and then these 2 parts at the back, at the front, sorry. So we've got the needle housing, which isn't playing ball coming out, there we go. This is probably what you're gonna clean the most. We should be nice and clean because of what it was cleaning through before, but if you've left paint in there, or you've had, you know, another different paint react, then you're not gonna get it out. So what I like to do is just run it through, touching the kitchen roll until it stops, and this is just drawing all the fluid out. And if I can get you guys, I don't know if you're gonna be able to see, but I can see right through there to daylight. So it is spotless and clean as it is. But 2 ways of doing it. Cleaning it if it is clogged, you've got Harder Steenbeck's reamer, which is a tapered half round reaming tool that you just literally place into the nozzle. You don't push forward with any pressure at all, because all you're going to do is widen up that 0.2mm hole, which will just destroy it. And all you do is turn it round and around and around, and it'll collect anything on the sidewalls. As you can see, we've got a very slight remnants of green and black paint from God knows when. So if you have got a bit in there, a little bit of cleaner, I like to just dribble a little bit in. Use a smaller end of the brush first, and again, no pressure really. Just give it a good clean through. And again, this will show you what's collected in there over time that even the best cleaners can't remove. And there you go, just remnants in the cup, the nozzle itself. Again, as long as you can see daylight through that, I'll then stick the bigger end through. Just give it a quick twist, quick blow, and there's perfect daylight. I don't know if you guys can see. So that's that spotlessly clean. Front section, I've got a slightly different part that comes with the kit, with the airbrush, sorry. I've got the pinch tip. It's actually off the Infinity. So this allows me to get any collected paint off the needle by just wiping it. That's the idea of calling it a pinch tip. You can just do that with a bit of tissue, and it gets any excess paint off there. It also makes cleaning a lot easier because you can get a cotton bud in there straight away. Obviously don't do that when you've got the needle in, because you're just going to damage your needle. And there we go, that part's clean as well. So reassembly. Needle nozzle housing together, screw it in position, nice and tight but not overly tight. If you ever get air coming back through your colour cup, it'll be because that isn't tight, and it only needs to be open a slight amount and you'll get air back through the colour cup. Another thing worth doing as well, cotton bud while you've got the needle out just inside the paint receptacle. Just give it a good clean. As you can see, just very, very light dry paint in there. Next step is the trigger. We'll put the air valve in first. Trigger goes in one way, directional. so. The sprung housing at the back, again, fits in a certain way. Now, before you put your needle back in, two things: a little bit of super lube, not too much, and make sure that trigger's down and it's not sat up like that. Because if you push your needle in now, it catches the bottom of this and it'll bend your needle tip. So make sure it's down like so and not up out of the way. So you should be able to press down onto the air valve as if you were using it. Needle, again, roughly picture where that needle valve, washer is in there. A little bit of the lubricant. I like to spread it on with a finger, remove everything off my finger, and then run my finger down again. I don't like to leave loads on there, just a very slippery residue. Again, make sure you're down fully there. Push it through nice and lightly. There shouldn't be any resistance whatsoever. The only resistance you're going to have is off that washer. Once it's assembled, just make sure it's pushed forward without giving it a load of pressure. Tighten that up, and there you go, job done. Colour cup back on. Rear part. We grab our air, which is over here. And what I always like to do, a little bit in, backflow it to get any residue out of there that may have collected. Tip it away, spray her out, and to finish off, a small amount of cleaner in there to do. So there you go, that's how I clean the airbrush. Literally, whenever performance deteriorates, or periodically, or if I'm starting a new model, or if I've got a bit of precision work I need to do, like I did before, pre-shading and what have you, always give it a clean through. Maintenance, it's simple to do, especially on these, very quick. This is a well-used, well-worn airbrush. Absolutely superb. They're well worth the money. They're not really that expensive. You can get them the bottom end silver line, which is essentially the same airbrush, for I think it's about £90. Awesome airbrushes. I love this thing to bits. Like I say, I got the Revolution as well by iWater. It's a nice airbrush. It just doesn't have the quality feel of the hard Steenbeck. It works very well. I use this for my alclads. Again, the only way to clean this is to backflow it because of the way the nozzle protective cap is. So I just put a finger over and backflow it. It works well, but I think with any paints like Tamiya or Vallejo, I think it's going to be a nightmare to clean. You will be stripping this down an awful lot to do. So for me, the harder Steenbeck's a lot more user friendly and usable. I know a lot of you guys have got them now, and that's my take on doing it. So like I say, I'll do that probably once every 2 weeks, and I just use the technique I used over in the spray booth between every colour change, and it keeps it in tip-top condition, working perfectly. So there you go. So I hope that's proved helpful. We got the pre-shading done on the 109. Maybe not the best pre-shading, but it is done. Like I say, when we get this canopy part back, I'll get the canopy back on and we'll get going with the base coats, and we'll really get moving forward with this. I was talking to Cohen last night on Skype, and I said I really need to get cracking on with this because it's not that far from being done. It's just fiddly bits and bobs. Once we start getting some base colour on, we can fly through it, literally, pardon the pun. So that's us for part 8, are we? Yeah, part 8. Back for part 9, we get the base colour down, and we might start getting some of the masking done as well. So I'll see you next time, and I'll catch you on the forums. Literally, whenever performance deteriorates, or periodically, or if I'm starting a new model, or if I've got a bit of precision work I need to do, like I did before, pre-shading and what have you, always give it a clean through. Maintenance, it's simple to do, especially on these, very quick. This is a well-used, well-worn airbrush. Absolutely superb. They're well worth the money. They're not really that expensive. You can get them the bottom end silver line, which is essentially the same airbrush, for I think it's about £90. Awesome airbrushes. I love this thing to bits. Like I say, I got the Revolution as well by iWater. It's a nice airbrush. It just doesn't have the quality feel of the hard Steenbeck. It works very well. I use this for my alclads. Again, the only way to clean this is to backflow it because of the way the nozzle protective cap is. So I just put a finger over and backflow it. It works well, but I think with any paints like Tamiya or Vallejo, I think it's going to be a nightmare to clean. You will be stripping this down an awful lot to do. So for me, the Harder Steenbeck's a lot more user friendly and usable. I know a lot of you guys have got them now, and that's my take on doing it. So like I say, I'll do that probably once every 2 weeks, and I just use the technique I used over in the spray booth between every colour change, and it keeps it in tip-top condition, working perfectly. So there you go. So I hope that's proved helpful. We've got the pre-shading done on the 109. Maybe not the best pre-shading, but it is done. Like I say, when we get this canopy part back, I'll get the canopy back on and we'll get going with the base coats, and we'll really get moving forward with this. I was talking to Cohen last night on Skype, and I said I really need to get cracking on with this because it's not that far from being done. It's just fiddly bits and bobs. Once we start getting some base colour on, we can fly through it, literally, pardon the pun. So that's us for part 8, are we? Yeah, part 8. Back for part 9, we get the base colour down, and we might start getting some of the masking done as well. So I'll see you next time, and I'll catch you on the forums.